Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 6.5 podcast. I'm Daniel Newman, CEO of the Futurum Group and host here on the 6.5. Sitting in today for this conversation, we're going to be talking to our friends at Micron about G9 NAND, the world's fastest NAND. We're going to talk about memory. By the way, talk about a renaissance. In the era of AI, has there been a bigger moment for memory? Let's talk about that, but let's not talk about that with me alone. Let's bring Russ Meyer. Russ is the Senior Vice President of NAND Technology Development at Micron. Russ, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, Dan. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks.
It is good to be here. So you heard my little introduction, all excited like. Sometimes it's funny about the booms and busts of semiconductors. And of course, those sometimes historically commoditized technologies like memory, where people like to put it in a box. We're going to take it out of the box today. We're going to talk about some of that differentiation. But what a moment you're having, right? Are you feeling it right now? The demand is through the roof. A few really great earnings after a tough period of time. Everyone at Micron's got to be feeling pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's a great call out, Dan. And we're coming off a very challenging year in 2023, and as you said, we're looking forward to some strong secular growth driven by AI and the applications that's going to drive for the memory demand. So we're excited about that, and we're excited about our string of recent product announcements.
Yeah, that's been a big part of the story with Micron. It's not just memory; it's about innovation here, and as we're seeing with high bandwidth memory and what's going on with it powering AI, not all memory and not any memory serves the need. And as we kind of hear about the rate limiting innovation and the rate limiting manufacturing requirements, it's like we can build all the GPUs in the world, but if we can't get enough memory, we can't build the systems. And so this is coming to a head right now. But I want to talk about G9 NAND, and I want to talk a little about what you're doing there. You've been on a roll, lots of announcements. You mentioned you had the SSD, the 9550, and now the G9 NAND in 2650. Kind of run me through these. Just run me through the whole thing. And you've even got the industry's first PCIe Gen 6 SSD for ecosystem enablement that you guys showed off at FMS. So wow, that was a mouthful. But give me the rundown on all these announcements.
Yeah, Dan, thanks for noticing. We are pretty excited about the string of announcements. We've been busy here at Micron building some great products and targeting these storage solutions that are going to accelerate AI. The announcements that you highlighted, they're pretty strong announcements as far as industry-leading products. But the third announcement, and the one that's very close to my heart, is that G9 NAND technology announcement, and that's not only an announcement of the technology itself; it's the announcement that we are shipping that technology in a drive, the 2650 client SSD drive.
So let's double click on that a bit. You sort of started to allude to it, but give us a bit of a deeper dive on the G9 NAND technology. What makes it unique? This is sort of a first, right? NAND in an SSD.
This is the first ninth generation NAND SSD, and it's really the culmination of years of a multi-year development cycle. So the team's been working on this for many years now, from concept through development to now to productization. And there's many milestones along the way as we go through that cycle, but this milestone is always a big one for us because this is the culmination. This is the realization of shipping this new technology into an actual product, so our customers and partners can start leveraging the advanced performance that it delivers. One of the focus points on this Gen 9 technology is focusing on the performance and the increased bandwidth. We deliver that, with multiple parameters. One is the on-feed interface speed. So this is going to be an industry-leading 3.6 gigabytes per second interface speed, which is a 50% jump from any competitive NAND available and from our previous Gen 8 or G8 solution as well. On top of that, the latencies enables a 99% better read and 88% better write bandwidth than what we see on competitive die that are available today. So these are pretty strong numbers, and really driving now into the client SSDs, but we're going to be driving products through data center and automotive on with these solutions as well. The other thing I'll highlight, Dan, is we've driven the density on this NAND. It's 73% more dense than what we see in competitive NAND shipping and SSDs today. So the other enabler that we brought in with this technology is we're doing a 6-plane architecture with independent word line. What that enables is a much stronger bandwidth and improved read and write performance, which from the customer usage experience is a stronger or higher quality of service. So you have less collisions between read and write commands. So all this pulled together in the density was also key in enabling us to maintain the footprint in the 11.5 millimeter package, which we've been targeting, which is 28% lower than what we see with most competitors in the industry as far as how much area it takes on that PCB board. So it gives the customers a lot more flexibility in signal routing, thermal performance, and the PCB layout in general.
No, I mean, that's really encouraging. And I'm glad you called out the generation item. I was twisted tongue there. When you start going through the specs and builds of memory, it's moving so quickly, and there's so much innovation going on. And speaking of moving quickly and innovation going on, you have been historically focused on layer counts, 232 layer NAND. Now you're sort of pivoting here in this particular with the 9th generation, and you're not using layer count. I like my cakes with layers, but maybe I prefer my NAND with generations. Talk a little bit about kind of why you did that, because obviously that's still an important technological differentiation.
Yeah, so there's a couple points here, Dan. One is primary reason for the change is it drives consistency with how the rest of the industry is communicating their generational transitions with NAND. So that gets us more consistent with the industry. It also helps drive better clarity with the customers as to what products we have and what generation they belong to. Historically, the layer count or the tier count historically has been a kind of a good headline metric. It's been one of the key metrics that we highlight as to signaling where we're at with the technology cadence. But it's really, the reality is that layer count is just one of several vectors that we have available to us to drive the scaling and the performance roadmap. So it's just one of those vectors. And sometimes, Dan, it's not even the best one. So what we're seeing as we look forward, the customers are most concerned about performance, bit density, cost efficiency, power efficiency, and those considerations. And like I mentioned, is layer count in and of itself isn't the best way to bring that package together.
Yeah, it's kind of like in cars, everyone likes to talk about horsepower, but sometimes that's the best example. Sometimes it's torque. Sometimes it's the amount of efficiency you can get out of an engine. Different people care about different things. I think what you're basically alluding to right now is that there are a number of key elements. That's one of them. But this newest generation gives them many of these different key elements that they're trying to, optimize and build their products around.
That's exactly right. And as a development team, one of the things we focus on is what's the best overall solution to deliver the customer's demands. And on the G9, for example, we put a lot of innovations and focus into compressing the array in an XY direction. So you get more pillars, more memory cells per unit area. And what that does is it allows us to get to those scaling numbers without driving tier count ever higher. The other thing I point out is, and you'll be seeing this across the industry, is layer count for the first decade of vertical NAND was a primary driver in the scaling. And what you're going to see is there's a paradigm shift happening as we go into the second generation of vertical NAND scaling, where there's going to be a lot more pressure and focus on the other enablers for scaling above and beyond tier layer count.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's growing competition, of course, here in the US, leader, manufacturer, innovator, critical part of our infrastructure. And that's been really important, even just following what's gone on with CHIPS Act and now with AI and the desire to build more here. But you're not only leading here in the States, you're leading around the globe from a design standpoint. I've watched Micron be a first in a number of different areas, especially throughout this NAND transition, shipping them, in SSDs straight out of the gate. And I think this goes back 4 or 5 years now. It seems that when y'all make an announcement, that's my Texas coming out. When y'all make an announcement about around NAND, it's real. It's not it's not a horizon. It's not, this is what's going to happen in 2 years, or this is the next decade. It's now. And of course, seeing it consumed so heavily in SSDs. Talk a little bit more about that kind of leadership that the company's been able to achieve.
Connecting these announcements with product delivery to our customers is important. It really allows them to have confidence and reliable understanding of what our timeframes are. So when we make these announcements, we like to link it to actual shipping of the next generation SSDs to our partners and customers. It's not an announcement of an upcoming product in the next year, or it's not an announcement of, introducing next gen NAND into manufacturing. It's an announcement of delivering these drives to our partners and customers. So it's a very real milestone, and it's one that we prioritize. Like you said, we've focused over the last few years to drive our next generations into the SSDs first. So G7, and back in 2020, we were the lead SSDs delivering G7. A couple years later, we were the lead company delivering G8 into the SSD solutions. And we're continuing that now with this recent announcement where we're driving the 9th generation.
And by the way, it would have been easy, given the turbulent economy, the market, the difficulty of memory, for Micron to probably, it wouldn't have been fun, but you could have kicked and pushed things out. You could have said, hey, we're going to slow R&D spend, and, we're going to slow certain investments. Actually, throughout those years, you made a number of big commitments to building further capacity, to driving innovation. And that wasn't necessarily true across the industry. I mean, do you see this opportunity to keep the leadership? I mean, we're seeing big dollars doled out in CHIPS Act, some to you, some to your competition. Like, what do you see there? Is staying in front something you feel comfortable and confident in?
Yes, we've been driving the technical leadership for the past few generations, and we do expect to maintain that cadence. And do make a good point, is when you have very challenging industry periods like we are just finishing up, it can be a real issue or challenge for the team to keep the cadence going. And the fact that Micron is able to keep this cadence moving despite the challenging headwinds is really a testimony to how important it is for us to maintain that technical leadership, so that our partners realize that they have a strong technical leader with us.
Yeah, it's always such a push and pull with the markets, the economies, the pressures of Wall Street. You want to deliver, you want to make shareholders happy, and in this business, of course, it's there's peaks and valleys, and but any of us that's been through these boom and bust cycles know that with every bust comes a boom, and we're back in it. But like I said, you're kind of on the front edge. I want to kind of make sure I'm getting this right about kind of the way you're approaching shipping the latest. So the 2650, for instance, first, it's a client SSD. It's one that OEMs will put into their system. It uses the G9 TLC NAND you've built, and it's a value drive. So it's leading, but it's also being designed to be value. But therefore, it's still really highly performant. How are you I'm curious, like, how are you tackling all those things? Usually it's like that pyramid, like you get two, but you give up something. And it sounds like no sacrifice.
All the component enablers and the technology enablers that I walked through earlier, they're all critical in enabling this total solution that we're seeing on the 2650. And the component enablers are critical. They allow the realization on the drive itself to help improve real-world user experience. And the 2650 does it very well. So if you look at it compared to current existing competitors, you're looking at a 70% better sequential read, 100% better sequential write, 150% random read. All these show up as not only top-level benchmark improvements, but they actually show up as improving the real-world experience of our users and our customers. And there are some, let's say, industry benchmark scores that target quantifying that. And the G9 NAND on the 2650 in the PC Mark 10 That score came at about 38% better than what's available on the market today. So the highlight there, Dan, is that these values or these performance numbers that we're driving through the next gen NAND are really coming out in the SSD for improved user experience. And we do expect that as we drive this G9 into data centers and automotive and other solutions, you're going to see that benefit just carry forward.
Well, Russ, I want to thank you so much for spending some time. There's a lot here to unpack. I hope everybody heard it, learned it. And if you didn't get it all, well, of course you can listen again, but you can also check out the notes below. We put more information about the G9 and all the announcements we mentioned here on the podcast in the show notes. Russ, you're going to have to keep us up to date. Sounds like a lot of innovation going on. It's really nice. In 2019, I previewed the year 2020. Russ, I didn't know some of the big things that were going to go on in the world in 2020, but I did say, I wrote a Market Watch op-ed. I said, silicon will eat the world. That was a big prediction that I made. Next 5 years, it seems to have indeed done that. And it's not just software. Try running software on air, as I always like to say. But anyways, it's been a great run this last 12 months, and I'm very encouraged about where things are headed. Continue to be impressed by the stuff that you and your team over at Micron are doing. Let's have you back soon. Let's do this again. Congratulations on all the success, and keep on keeping on, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate the time.
And everyone out there, hit that subscribe button. Join us for all our episodes. Check out the 6.5, but I've got to go. So we will see you later.